So I want to talk about this concept, and this concept of seeing yourself, the layers of consciousness, as a building. On the outside of the building, in the trenches, on the ground floor, is where life happens. Life, the present moment, happens. It's us being here with our senses, feeling what we're feeling, being in the moment. And this is where the ego consciousness lives. Because if we look at the components, the components of the equation, let's just say, you have like the outside world, the senses, the thoughts, the emotions, the projections, all of that lives here on the first floor of this building of yourself, of these aspects of yourself. This concept that I've described earlier about recognizing that you are the experiencer of these different levels of consciousness, these different levels of what you're aware of. At the top of this floor, and even more, you can keep adding floors. You can add 1,000 more floors because you are the observer, the experiencer of these floors, of this life. This building is your life, but you are not the building. When you raise your consciousness, you're raising up to a different level. Almost like leaving a holographic image behind. It's still there, but you're just higher up. You're just higher up in this building of observation, of this perception that you're bringing to your life when you're raising up into this building. And that's the nature of raising your consciousness. You're raising your perception. You're seeing things in a different light. You're experiencing perception in a more broader sense of things. And this concept of raising your perception, of raising things to a higher level, is the journey of life. For example, I was extremely traumatized when I was a kid, and for most of my adult life. I was separate from my family. I had these feelings of rejection, of people-pleasing aspect where I needed other people to be happy with me for me to be happy. I needed other people to accept me, to see my value, for me to feel that value, to feel accepted. And that was me being in the trenches. Based upon their actions, how could I have responded any other way? But as healing begins, as consciousness starts to expand, as perception starts to expand, you start to raise up and raise up and raise up. And you realize that the fact that you got kicked out of your house and then made a life-changing choice to join the Air Force after it, to get as far away as from your family, was at first in the trenches, on the first level, outside of this building, in the personal. It was very horrible. It was very negative. I felt very alone. There was a lot of separation. But as I started to heal, as I started to understand and bring different perceptions to this pain, to this trauma that I experienced, I raised up higher and higher and higher and brought that perception, perspective, that experience, the understanding of what happened to a higher level, that I recognized that I needed that experience. I needed to feel, I needed to find the love within. And in order for me to find that love within, I had to push away from my family. And not my stepmom and stepbrother, but my actual family. And it took 17 years for me to find that love within and recognize that I have love within. I have value from within. And I needed to find that from myself. And all of these pains and traumas, all of these previous perceptions of victimization that I felt so deeply and so strongly were actually just the other side of the coin. When you touch your first hot thing, you burn yourself. And that's a lesson. You learn that things are hot. But the lesson wouldn't exist if that hot thing or that thing that caused you pain or trauma that brought upon the lesson wouldn't exist. So you start to become thankful for your whole aspect, for you, where you're stepping higher consciousness of that experience. When you touch hot things in the egoic eye, on the bottom floor lie, I hate hot things. I hate this. This causes me pain. This causes separation. I don't like this. That's the egoic senses telling you that pain happens from touching hot things. But when you raise your perspective, when you raise your consciousness, you start to see things like, oh, there's a lesson there. This is a lesson. You start to raise your understanding, your love and appreciation for the things that maybe not yet, maybe you haven't quite seen that perspective of how that is bringing value, how that is bringing perspective, raising you up to a higher level of consciousness of what I need to learn from this. My whole life has been an example of needing to find the love from within, not from outside sources, from my mother, from my father, from my brother, from my sister, from my ex-stepmom, from my ex-stepbrother. I needed to find love from within. I needed to stop displacing it upon them. Ultimately, it broke their back, trying to fulfill what I needed. I needed to step back and find that I have love from within. And it took a different perspective, and it took a different understanding, a higher level of consciousness for me to realize that there's some people here, you included, who have agreed upon pain and discomfort to cause other people so they could learn a lesson. It's not all about this separateness that I did this to someone. Ultimately, at the top of this building, at the top of this, it's all love. And then you have love and appreciation for that person who brought you this critical, important lesson to find that love, to find that resource from within. You are that resource. Everything you have is within you. You just really need to raise yourself into a higher perspective, a higher level of consciousness to see the greater manifestation of your reality, of your becoming. This enlightened higher level of consciousness, this ability to see things from a higher perspective. It's not all just pains and traumas. That's the ground floor. You're stuck on a bottom floor. You're not seeing the next floor. You're not seeing the stairs, the steps to take to see the next floor, to see that next higher perspective. And it all falls back on realizing that you are the soul. You are the experiencer. Everything else is the experience on these lower floors. when you raise yourself to these higher levels of consciousness, to these perspectives, that's when change happens inside your body. And always recognize to go back into this concept of this self, of this building of perception, of seeing these perceptions as raising yourself up to a higher floor. Raise yourself to a higher floor. Raise yourself to a higher floor. It might take getting rid of these powerful, painful emotions that you repressed, these sadnesses, these pains. One of the big things that happens when you're a people pleaser is that you don't feel it's okay to express your emotions. That emotions are bad, they're negative, they're horrible. They prevent you from doing what you want to do. Maybe you had an experience of being sad and depressed, and an opportunity passed you of something that you really wanted. And that became an understanding. Your body recognized, the egoic consciousness felt that. You felt that and recognized that, or the association that you put to it is that emotions take me away from the things that I want. That's a belief. That's a perception. But everything is here for a reason. These emotions, these pains are here to teach you a lesson about love, about recognizing the full aspect of this complete circle of life, not just of what just happened to you. You start to feel the appreciation for the pain and suffering that the person that hurt you had to go through in order to be that person to you, for you to learn this lesson. And then you start to feel love for them. And then you start to feel love for the people that caused their pain, their trauma. Those boomers that had a horrible life, that went through world wars and famine, and also are just not these perfect human beings, that they have no history of their self, of their own. When you make these correlations, when you make these bridges, when you make these understandings of raising yourself to these higher level of consciousnesses, to these higher steps in this building of seeing your life from a different perspective, from a higher perspective, from raising your consciousness, to awakening to what's happening in your life, recognizing and understanding your energetic choices and your energetic states. That you raise yourself to these higher levels of consciousness, to raise yourself to these higher levels of awareness. And recognize that it's all full circle, it's all love, everything is all love. It's all about your becoming. You have decided on a certain amount of suffering in this life. Maybe you don't believe this, but my certain level of suffering was separating from my family for 17 years. For trying to displace my love of feeling complete, feeling worth, feeling value upon my stepmother, upon my stepbrother, upon other things from this outside world, from this consumeristic state of being. Of I am not enough, you are not enough, you will never have enough. You need this to be better, you need this to be happy, you need this. You need something outside of yourself to complete yourself. This is the consumeristic consciousness. This is the ground level thinking. Raise your consciousness to a higher level. See for yourself. See yourself in a different aspect, in a higher level. Try to see the side that this is your becoming. Like the example of burning yourself, you would not have that experience. You would not have that understanding of what things are hot. And if there wasn't hot things, if there wasn't pain, if there wasn't traumatic people causing other traumatic experiences. They're causing you to learn, to grow, to find the love from within. The love you have from within, the value that you have from worth, that value you have within and the worth you have within. When you raise your consciousness higher, it's all love. At the top floor, it is all love. It's full circle. It just is. On these lower levels of these floors, you're not seeing all aspects of what's happening. Raise yourself to these higher level of consciousness. Place yourself in a position. Use these tools of separation, of dissociation, of dissociating yourself from that bottom floor. Raise yourself higher in this building of life to see it, just for a moment. If you see yourself as a victim, step out of it a little bit higher. What am I learning from this? What is this here to teach me? These are all lessons. When you raise your higher consciousness to these higher steps, you realize that these are all lessons of who you are and who you're becoming, of finding this you inside. This is you. This is the love that you have inside. You are the love that you are. It's all inside. It's all lessons for you to become something so much more greater. To not hold on to these past pains and past traumas. Stagnant, stuck emotions. Things that are holding you back from pursuing, from allowing to let the body love what it loves. Because you're putting blocks in energy. You're putting blocks in this flow of energy when you do this. This energy flows within you. Energy just wants to be. It doesn't want to be changed. It doesn't want to be altered. It just wants to be. It just wants to be accepted. It just wants to be seen. It wants to be loved. It wants to be appreciated. See it for what it really is, as a lesson, as a becoming of the self, of you, stepping into these higher level of consciousnesses to see that it is all love. It really is. It's all love. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day.